Today, I'll share 5 crucial productivity mistakes I made on my unique journey from my corporate firing to becoming Mr. Productivity and how these insights can revolutionize your productivity strategy. Hi, I'm Mark, and this is the Mr. Productivity Podcast, the show that is dedicated to empowering you to conquer distractions, prioritize effectively, and gain daily clarity. Now, before we begin, I have a very important question to ask you. Are you ready to elevate your life? I'm hoping you answered a resounding hell yes. Well, then, I invite you to join us over at The Productive Life. This is my free email newsletter that comes packed with insights to revamp your daily routine. Each week, I bring you no-nonsense tips to help you live, well, the productive life. With The Productive Life, you can expect to learn how to exceed your goals, boost your daily hustle, and balance intense work with relaxing downtime. Time is precious, my friend, and my strategies are the key to achieving your dreams. Don't miss out on upgrading your productivity. Subscribe for free today at MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com, and transform every day into a win. All right. Let's get started. I'm going to tell you about 5 mistakes I made with productivity. I love productivity, and I'd like to share with you how I got started into productivity. I was fired from my job, my corporate job, in July of 2005. I wish I could tell you that I knew it was coming. I mean, I didn't know it was coming, but I kind of figured it was coming. And when I was fired, what I decided to do is become an entrepreneur. Now, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I could barely spell it, but I wanted to be one because it sounded really cool. You know that movie, The Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. So I decided, I love photography. So I decided I would become a wedding and portrait photographer. That didn't go too well. It did not go very well at all. Remember, this is back in 2005. And when I was trying to grow my photography business, Facebook was brand new. Twitter was brand new. There was no TikTok. There was no Snapchat. I don't think there was a LinkedIn. Probably YouTube. And so I decided to go to one of my friends and say, I want to learn how to speak because I want to become a trainer. And they told me to go to Toastmasters and go to the National Speakers Association, stuff like that, which I did. And I became a communicator. One of the problems I had was there's a lot to learn. When you're a communicator, when you're first learning how to speak, there's a lot to learn. And I became very overwhelmed. I fell victim to what I call the 3 C's, coaches, conferences, and coaches. But one coach saw something in me, which got me into productivity. I was having a phone call with him, and I was not my usual Tigger self. If you're familiar with Winnie the Pooh, I was not my usual Tigger self. And he said, what's going on? I said, well, I really love training and speaking and helping people, but I don't know what I should talk about. I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I'm feeling very stressed out. And he goes, well, why don't you teach people about how to be productive? And I remember saying to him, I don't know where that came from, but why would you say that? And he goes, I deal with a lot of people. You have a natural giftedness of being productive. You should share that gift with the world. And so I did. And I learned how to deal with the overwhelm. And I learned how to deal with being stressed out. And I shared it with the world. Over all those years, I officially launched my website, markstruczewski.com, which you can get to by going to mrproductivity.com. You're welcome. In January of 2011. But I was starting my business after I got fired back in 2005. Now, I made a lot of mistakes once I got into productivity because people think that I have all the answers to productivity, and I don't. What I look at myself is being just a few steps ahead of you. And I think any expert, if they're honest, will tell you the same thing. They're only a few steps behind, ahead of you, hopefully not behind, ahead of you, and they're sharing their information. So I have probably made way more than 5 mistakes, but I'm going to share with you 5 mistakes in our time together today. Number 1, overthinking. Are you guilty of overthinking? Also known as paralysis by analysis. Should you do A? Should you do B? Should you start this business? Should you start a podcast? Should you start a YouTube channel? Should you go deep on the LinkedIn or should you go deep on the TikTok? What should you do? So when you overthink, your productivity goes in the toilet because you're thinking about a plethora of things instead of focusing on a few things. Do I still overthink today? Yes, I do. Although not as much. So for example, this is a small example, but if someone were to say to me, hey, Mark, I got a lot of value out of this book. I think you would get a lot of value out of this book. In the past, I would go, let me think about that. Let me read the reviews. Let me go find the author on social media. Let me ask my friends. I don't do that anymore. If someone in my inner circle, someone I trust, recommends a book, while I'm right in front of them, I pick up my phone, go to Amazon, and order the book. That's taking action. That's not overthinking. Why do I need to overthink? They just recommended the book to me, and I trust the person. But that's a small example. It could be when you sit down to plan. Are you overthinking? What do I need to do? Who should I call? How many calls should I make? Should I make 10 calls? Should I make 50 calls? That's overthinking. And when you overthink, your productivity takes a major hit. Now, if you're overthinking, take a breath. It's okay. Everyone overthinks. As you get better, you overthink little, but I guarantee you, even the most successful people in our world today, they still overthink. They just don't do it as much as everyone else. Second mistake, striving for perfection. This is a big one. I struggle with this a lot. When I would create content for social media, whether it's a video or a podcast or an email newsletter or a post, it doesn't matter what it was, I would strive for perfection. Does my hair look right? Am I looking in the camera? Is this shirt okay? Is there anybody live? Is there anybody reading my stuff? How many followers do I have? And I would just, again, overthinking and striving for perfection. Then I heard Grant Cardone, someone I really respect and have learned a lot from. He says, look it, you're overthinking this way more than other people are. Don't strive for perfection. You create a video for some social media platform, just post it and move on. For example, Instagram Reels or TikTok Reels, and you do the captions. And I would spend a long time making sure the punctuation was correct, making sure the commas were in the right place. Why? I realized to myself that before I spent this much attention to detail and after, it didn't affect my engagement. It didn't affect my reach. So why am I spending time striving for perfection? Getting things out less than perfect, which is going to be anyways, is way better than delaying getting that content out for perfection, because you're never going to be able to achieve perfection. You can improve, but you'll never strive for perfection. But here's the thing. Think about this. As you're producing content, you're going to get better. Now, you may be watching this and you may say, oh, I could never do it. He's so full of confidence and he's so bold. I'm like, I've got nearly 1,200 episodes of the Mark STRUCZEWSKI podcast. I've been speaking. I've been doing videos for a long time, but you can get here too. You just keep practicing every day, and don't practice in your closet alone. Go on social media. It's the best way to get over your overthinking and striving for perfection. Mistake number 3, getting stuck doing something one way. So I'll be honest with you. And for the longest time, I would think, you know what? I am going to stick with planning only on my calendar app on my iPhone. That's it. I'm tunnel vision here. I'm not going to do another way. That's the only way I'm going to do it. But I'm also a student of productivity. And I started hearing other people say, I use a planner. I write down my plan. I'm like, that's 1980 stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm like, you know what, Mark? If you're truly going to serve your clients and the people who see you on social media or subscribe to your email newsletter or your podcast, wouldn't it be a good idea to try different things? I'm like, Mark, you got a good point there. So I started trying different things, different planners, different apps, reading different books. And I broaden the way I teach. And I learned something. For me, planning on paper works better. At first, I dismissed it. Then I go, maybe I should try it. Take a look at some of the things you're doing every day in your life and go, is there a better way? Is there another way? You could try it and go, yep, that sucks. I'm going to go back to the other way. Or maybe you go, that was a great idea. So just because you've been doing something for a week, a month, a quarter, a year, 5 years, always ask yourself, I'm doing this thing over and over again. Is there a better way? Maybe there's not, but maybe there is. Stop getting stuck in doing something a certain way. That's what I did. That's mistake number 3. Mistake number 4, doubting myself and what I was doing. For the longest time, I will freely admit to you, I avoided the word expert like the bubonic plague. I didn't want anyone calling me an expert. Don't call me an expert. I am not an expert. I am just trying to figure things out and share with the world. But that's exactly what an expert is. An expert, I used to think an expert knew everything about that topic. Everything about that topic. But it's not true. An expert just knows a little bit more than other people who don't. That's all an expert is. So I fought the word expert for so long. And when you start fighting words, when people say, Mark, you really helped me with my productivity. Mark, you're a really good coach. Man, thank you so much. I'm like, I'm not that good. I'm not worthy. What that does is kills your productivity because you're doubting yourself. Then you start doing negative self-talk. You're like, I'm not that good. Well, if people are paying you money and they're giving you compliments and they're clapping their hands, obviously you know what you're talking about. So here's the thing. What you should do instead is be grateful. And when people say to you, hey, you're doing a good job, and that self-talk, that negative self-talk comes up and starts yipping, you just go, get away from me. Okay? Because everyone has a talent. I love how Marie Forleo says that everyone has a gift. Everyone has a gift. And if you don't share your gift with the world, you are robbing the rest of us. And so I have a gift. I am naturally productive. Am I perfect? No. But perfect people don't come to me because they don't exist. But like Tony Robbins or Brendan Burchard or Grant Cardone, they're not going to come to me and hire me as a productivity coach. Why? Because they're pretty productive. Now, can they improve? Of course they can. Everyone can improve. But I don't doubt myself. I know that I have value to offer the world. You have value to offer the world. So don't doubt yourself and what you're doing. That's my 4th mistake. And mistake number 5, not doing what I teach. Oh my goodness. I am so guilty of this. I will say one thing and I know what I'm supposed to do because it's what I teach. And what happens is I find myself getting caught up. For example, at home, I have a home office. Now I'm an empty nester. My wife goes off to a real job and I'm here with my dog. Now I know that when I'm working, I'm not supposed to do anything that's not work related. But if I go in the kitchen and I see dishes in the sink, I'll put them in the dishwasher. Or maybe if I see the clothes hamper full of clothes because I have to walk by it to go to the restroom, I will put a load of laundry in. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing this as long as it's scheduled. So if I put household chores from 1 to 1:30 and I do the household chores between 1 and 1:30, we're golden. But if I do it at 10:30 when I should be prospecting or creating a video or creating a podcast, that's not so good. I do teach stuff and I don't do it. I don't do it because I think I'm better than other people. I just fall like you do every day. It's just the way it happens. Okay, so those are just five of the mistakes I have made as Mr. Productivity. I could have had an episode that listed all my mistakes, But this is not the Joe Rogan podcast. This is the Mr. Productivity podcast. So I'm curious to know, what mistake did you resonate with most? What mistake did I talk about on the show today did you resonate the most with? So easy way to get a hold of me. You can go to my website, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. Click the contact tab and send me a message. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, although they don't have DMs yet. Just DM me and just look for Mr. Productivity and let me know. I'm really curious. I really want to know because I'm nosy. Really. Not really. But anyways, I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Would you do me a huge favor? I mean, a giant favor. If you haven't done so already, please follow this podcast on whatever podcast player you're listening to this on. The more people to follow, the more people that get exposed to this through the algorithm, and I can help more people just like you. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. I really, truly appreciate your time and your attention. I'll be back real soon with a new episode. Until then, stay productive and stay positive.